Grief, that uninvited specter, weaves itself into the fabric of life in ways both predictable and shattering, and for Louis Tomlinson, it struck with a ferocity that words can scarcely capture. On the 15th anniversary of One Direction's formation, a date that should have been pure nostalgia-laced celebration, Tomlinson found himself confronting an abyss, the absence of his bandmate Liam Payne echoing louder than any reunion cheer. In a soul-bearing interview with Rolling Stone UK, the singer peeled back the veneer of boyband survivorship to reveal the raw underbelly of loss, describing Payne's death as impossibly difficult and a catalyst for resurfacing waves of injustice and frustration. It's very different. I've never lost a friend before, Tomlinson confessed, his voice cracking the polished surface of fame to expose a man adrift in sorrow's unpredictable currents. One Direction's origin story, forged in the crucible of the X Factor in 2010, was a fairy tale scripted for the digital age. 5 lads, each with a spark of charisma, amalgamated into a phenomenon that redefined pop. Tomlinson, with his cheeky Doncaster wit and tousled charm, became the group's de facto leader, the one who kept the lads grounded amid Beatlemania-level hysteria. Payne, however, was the quiet anchor, the safest pair of hands, as Tomlinson now eulogizes him. Even in their audition days, when the quintet was a ragtag assembly of amateurs fumbling through harmonies, Payne exuded a maturity that belied his teenage years. We were all just so amateur, but he was already where he needed to be by the time he did his first X Factor audition, Tomlinson reflected, painting Payne as the band's unspoken compass, guiding them through sold-out arenas and tabloid tempests with a steadiness that steadied them all. Payne's death on October 16, 2024, shattered that legacy irreparably. At 31, he plummeted multiple stories from a balcony at Buenos Aires' Casa Sur Palermo Hotel, a tragic freefall ruled as polytrauma from multiple injuries, compounded by internal and external hemorrhaging. The toxicology report, a clinical coda to chaos, detected alcohol, cocaine, and prescription antidepressants in his system, a cocktail that spoke to battles waged in silence. Fans, still reeling from the band's 2015 hiatus, mourned collectively. Social media timelines flooded with hashtag RIP Liam tributes and archival clips of Payne's powerhouse vocals on hits like Story of My Life. For Tomlinson, though, the grief was intimate, a personal ledger of shared triumphs and unspoken fractures. He'd navigated loss before, the 2016 leukemia death of his mother, Johanna Deacon, a pillar of fierce love who shepherded him through fame's early gales, the 2019 accidental overdose of his sister Felicite, a budding designer whose vibrant spirit mirrored his own. Those blows had schooled him in sorrow's rhythms, making him relatively well-versed in grief, yet Payne's passing carved a novel wound, one that defied prior maps. It's very different, Tomlinson reiterated, the words hanging heavy with the weight of newfound isolation. Losing family had been a familial unraveling, threads pulled from the core self, but a friend's death? That's camaraderie's cruel severance, the echo of inside jokes and late-night tourbus confessions fading into void. One Direction wasn't just a job, it was brotherhood forged in fire, sleepless nights perfecting choreography, the adrenaline rush of 80,000 voices chanting their names, the quiet vulnerability shared over post-show pints. Payne, with his affable grin and tenor that anchored ballads, was the glue, the one who mediated squabbles and lifted spirits when the road's monotony gnawed. Tomlinson's tribute underscores this. Payne's leadership wasn't bombastic but benevolent, a steady hand steering the ship when egos clashed or homesickness hit. Recalling their X Factor origins, Tomlinson evokes a time of wide-eyed ambition, where Payne's preparedness contrasted the group's greenness, setting a tone of professionalism that propelled them to global domination. The anniversary interview, timed to coincide with One Direction's milestone, amplified the bittersweet sting. What might have been a reflective podcast or documentary clip, Tomlinson reminiscing on What Makes You Beautiful, or the Zayn Malik departure drama, became a requiem. Grief, Tomlinson articulates, isn't linear, it's a tempest that resurrects old furies. The injustice, he mentions, likely stems from Payne's youth, the squandering of a life that had just begun to unfold solo. Post-band, Payne had carved a niche with LP1 and Teardrops, albums blending pop polish with R&B edges, while battling public scrutiny over his sobriety journey and fatherhood to son Bear. His Buenos Aires trip, ostensibly for a casual visit, ended in headlines that dissected rather than dignified, fueling Tomlinson's frustration with a media machine that amplifies tragedy for clicks. Impossibly difficult, encapsulates the paradox. How do you grieve publicly when the world's eyes demand narrative, not nuance? Tomlinson's candor extends a lifeline to fans grappling similarly. One Direction's legacy endures in therapy sessions and fan fiction, a soundtrack for coming-of-age heartbreaks, but its members' post-fame paths illuminate survivors' complexities. Tomlinson's own solo arc, Walls and Faith in the Future, channeling 1D's hooks into introspective rock, mirrors Payne's quest for identity beyond the boy band label. Yet, where Tomlinson found solace in fatherhood to son Freddie and creative control, Payne's struggles with addiction and industry pressures cast long shadows. The interview doesn't shy from this. It honors Payne by contextualizing his humanity, not sanitizing it. Toxicology details, grim as they are, humanize the fallen, reminders that fame's pedestal is perilously thin, offering no immunity from personal demons. In weaving Payne's influence into his reflections, Tomlinson pays homage to mentorship's quiet power. That safest pair of hands metaphor evokes trust earned in chaos, Payne arranging setlists, coaching vocals, or simply listening when the toll of fame frayed nerves. Their bond, like the band's, was symbiotic. Tomlinson's humor lightening Payne's seriousness, Payne's reliability bolstering Tomlinson's bravado. Losing that equilibrium disrupts more than memories. It questions futures unlived, collaborations unrealized, a hypothetical 15th anniversary tour now forever altered. Tomlinson's grief, then, is collective, a vessel for the Directioners' own mourning rituals, candlelit vigils in London parks, fan art flooding Instagram, covers of night changes laced with tears. Yet, amid the ache, Tomlinson's words hint at alchemy. Grief, versed as he is, evolves, it doesn't erase but reshapes. His mother's passing birthed songs of maternal devotion, Felicitas a fiercer advocacy for mental health. Payne's might fuel a deeper dive into vulnerability, perhaps a memoir or charity drive amplifying addiction recovery voices. The frustration he voices could catalyze industry reform, better mental health provisions for young stars, less invasive paparazzi hounding. For now, though, it's processing, anniversaries that sting, playlists skipped over Payne's solos, the hollow ring of group chats gone silent.